Hi, listeners, and welcome to My Highland Update. I'm Marianne Manderfield, Public Information Coordinator for the city, and today our guest is Assistant City Manager Matt VanDyken. Hi, Matt. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
Sure. Thank you for taking time to talk with us today. Part of your responsibilities as the Assistant City Manager are the capital improvement projects, and we've got a lot going on with the city right now. We want to focus on some of the bigger ones that are currently taking place and some of those that are getting close to beginning. One big one that I'm sure a lot of people have already seen is the Waverly Station construction. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so both of our fire stations, we actually have three stations. We have the Waverly Station and the Collin Park Station, and then we have a joint station out in Park Township that we share that isn't a manned station, so we don't have staff there all the time, but we got some equipment there. The two stations that we're talking about today are the Collin Park Station and the Waverly Road Station.
Right.
The Waverly Station, both of those stations were actually built in the early 1970s, so they are showing their age, and the fire service has changed significantly since the 1970s. We've got some different folks in the stations that weren't there when those were built, and we're making big investments in making those stations better for all of our firefighters.
So they're about 50 years old. Have there been any renovations to those since their construction?
There's been some furniture and paint, and that's been about it from those original builds, which is interesting. There's one exception, and that is, I believe it was the blizzard of 1978. The newly built Waverly Road Fire Station actually had the bay roof collapse.
Oh.
It had to be rebuilt. So
Wow.
not really a renovation, but a major repair
Yes.
early on in that station's life.
Yes. So they are well due for some upgrades and renovations and such.
Yeah, they really are. It was a boys' club in the fire service back in the early 1970s, and now we're proud to have female firefighters. We want to make sure we give everyone the appropriate amenities within the station so that they can feel dignified and comfortable. So we're going to be doing a lot of upgrades to have individual dorm rooms, have individual bathrooms for all the firefighters to use so that it's a dignified place to live. They're in there 48 hours for a shift. It's their second home, and it's really important that we take care of them.
Sure. You said 18? It'll have 18 spaces for...
Yeah. So that Waverly Road Station, some of the big features of that, I guess if we hit that, the new station will actually have 5 bays.
Okay.
Where the old station had 2.
Okay.
We will have 18 individual dorm rooms. We'll have individual toilet rooms. And then one of the biggest things that is newer in the fire service, and we're definitely including it in the design of both the Waverly Station and the Collin Park Station, is the idea of hot and cold zones within that station.
Okay.
So if you think of what a firefighter goes into, they may run on a medical where they're exposed to some contamination in a medical run, or if they do go into a fire, there's all kinds of stuff in a fire, in a house fire, in a commercial fire, that's really not good for you. Not good to be on your clothes, not good to be on you, and really not good to be brought back into the place that you're going to live. So these hot and cold zones actually have showers, they have clothes washing facilities that are outside of the door to where the firefighters actually live and eat and sleep.
Okay.
So that keeps all those contaminants away and allows them to get all that nasty stuff off their clothes, off themselves, before they actually step into the area that they live. So it's really important. There's a lot of studies out there about cancers in firefighters. I think we've all seen something that's got plastic in it burning, and it's all black and really nasty. And if you sit by a campfire, and you wake up the next morning, you smell your clothes, that smoke smell is still on you. We want to make sure that all of that is getting off of them before they get back into where they're going to live.
So they would go right from the truck, per se, into the decontamination room or the cold zone.
Yep.
And then...
Actually, that would be
the
hot
opposite.
Zone. Yeah, that would be the hot zone. But yeah, they can come right off, get their turnout gear washed, get their clothing washed, wash themselves, and all of that stays out of that
living
cold,
quarters. Yes, the cold
area.
The cold zones. That's good. That's huge. That's a huge enhancement significant, I would think, for the firefighters, for sure.
It is, and I want to make sure that people understand that they've taken steps to do that in the existing stations.
Sure.
But it's really, they're not set up to
Right.
do that. So this really, their safety is a high priority. They're the ones that go into the buildings that are on fire, and we want to make sure that we're doing the things that we can to make sure that they're safe, and get to go home to their families safe. So it's a big investment. I think people that drive by that station, especially the one on Waverly Road, look at it and just think, geez, wow, that is a big building. And yeah, it is a big building. But it's to accommodate the growth that Holland has seen, you know.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about the growth in that area.
Yeah, so if we think back to when that station was built, you know, the city limits weren't too far from where it was.
Sure.
So we've actually increased to the south there quite a bit. That increase actually went into a lot of the industrial areas.
Okay.
And, you know, we have a lot of people that don't necessarily live in Holland, but actually come into Holland to work. We've seen that expansion with LG Chem is in the area. Rest Haven is doing a project on 24th Street. Hudsonville Ice Cream has increased their stuff. There's increased warehousing down off of M40. So that area has just continued to grow and have more people in it. More people mean more traffic accidents, more
Right.
medical calls, more everything that our folks respond to. So really the station is being built not just with a mind to today, but a mind to what's going to happen in the next 50 years. You know, what services might we need to provide, and the station is being built to accommodate for some level of growth.
So forward thinking, for sure.
Trying to. It's
Yeah.
it's way less expensive to build that extra bay right now than it would be to add it onto the building in the future. So we've done that, and all those bays are going to get used right out of the gate, but they're big bays. We can fit multiple apparatus in them. So yeah, really trying to look forward, trying to think, where is Holland going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, and what can we do now to make sure that we're able to adapt to whatever those needs are in the future.
Because that will fit, you said 5 bays, so 10 trucks that could fit essentially?
Yep, roughly 10 trucks, depending on what size of the truck.
Sure.
You know, some of the smaller Tahoes, you could probably fit 3 or 4 of them in there, and maybe the
Okay.
big ladder trucks, you could only fit 1 in a bay. But yeah, it's built to
That's
accommodate
significant.
whatever they need. It's significant.
Nice.
We're looking forward to having it complete. I should mention completion date will be roughly May
Okay, so soon.
this year, coming soon,
Yes,
coming
that's
quickly.
around the corner.
It is. Drywall is going up inside.
Okay.
All the walls are built. We've got the building enclosed. A lot of the glass is in, so we can use these last couple of months before May to get everything finalized and get the firefighters moved in from the station that's there into this one. Then we'll demo the old one and move on to Collin Park. One thing I didn't mention is I think people look at this and they see a couple of buildings there, depending on what they come, or which direction they come, either 32nd or Waverly Road. So included in this project is we have a storage problem. We have a lot of public safety stuff. We've got a fire boat. We've got the ice cream truck. We've got an emergency command station. We've got vehicles that are out at that shared station with Park Township that we maybe wouldn't mind having a little closer to us.
Sure.
And that storage facility is going to be able to accommodate all of those and more.
Nice.
And then what that will do is we have abandoned bicycles that we store currently, the Parks Department, those will come to this site. And
Okay.
all the miscellaneous things that public safety folks have and maybe some of our other departments have will be able to be securely stored inside within that heated storage facility.
One consolidated location.
One consolidated
Nice.
location, pretty centralized within the city. So we should they should know exactly where their stuff is.
Yes.
I think it's a lot like the basement at home where when you build it,
Right.
you tend to fill it up and you don't realize how much stuff you have until you go to move. But we'll
Right.
try to manage that and keep the stuff that's in there to be the stuff that needs to be in there.
Well, this is a huge benefit to our community, a huge service to the residents and the industry, and providing a great service to them with this enhancement of the equipment and personnel and
It is.
firefighter, the staff themselves.
The staff themselves, each station will have, the separate dorm rooms. Each station will have workout facilities, so they can take care of themselves while they're at work, just like they would if they were at home. We are integrating what's called a station alerting system into both stations, so they're getting all kinds of information as they move from wherever they were on the call came in to the trucks to out the door. They're being given information all the time. We're working very closely with Ottawa County Central Dispatch.
Okay.
And they've been a huge asset. Ottawa County Central Dispatch is a huge asset to us all the time, but especially in this project to pull off that station alerting. So we're excited.
Yes.
Moving in May. Collin Park will likely start in June of this coming summer.
And that's going to be a complete gut.
That's
of
going to
that
be
building?
a complete gut of that building.
Okay.
There will be a couple of smaller additions.
Okay.
The building will still have some of that feel that it has right now. We talked to the neighbors. I think the neighbors love having the fire station, maybe not at 3 o'clock in the morning when the sirens go off.
Right.
But we want to make sure that there's such an opportunity at Collin Park to interact with the public.
Absolutely.
And we're right there across from Collin Park. They can see the trucks. They can see the firefighters. The kiddos always like to see the fire trucks. So we want to make sure we're keeping some of the flavor of the existing Collin Park station.
Nice.
But we're doing all the other upgrades and amenities that the Waverly Road Station is getting just on that particular site. We are in the process of deciding kind of where, because we're going to bring everybody out of that station,
Okay.
of where they will operate out of
Okay.
during construction. But our intention is to get everybody out, get in there, get the job done, get the renovation done, and then move everybody back in with really, hopefully, a limited disruption to our citizens.
Right.
I don't think they will see any change in their level of service.
Because the firefighters won't be housed there, but they'll be somewhere within close proximity to that station.
Yeah, that's likely what's going to happen. Is
Okay.
they'll be someplace close, or they may run out of the new Waverly station for a while and be stationed at different points throughout the city during the day. That's really more of an operational
Sure.
decision for the Chief Messer and Captain Tinney to figure out, but I'm confident they've got that under control.
I'm sure they do. Moving on and completely switching gears to a different project that has been talked about for quite some time in Holland is the ice skating rink. And it's about to become a reality for the community, which is very exciting. There's been a lot of work already done in preparation for the actual construction start of the ice skating rink. Tell us a little bit about that pre-work, and people may be thinking, when's this going to start? When's this going to start? But then a lot of work has already been done for that.
Yeah, so a lot of work has already been done. That area, that window on the waterfront area, I don't know if everybody realizes this, but that was once the city dump.
Okay.
After that, it was a dredge storage site, or is a dredge storage site, I guess, for the dredging of the harbor mouth.
Okay.
So a lot of the material that in there is material that was actually at one point in Lake Michigan. So we had to do a lot of soil borings. We had to do a lot of figuring out how do we build this really special amenity that's close to our downtown on what are not the greatest soils in the world. So we've gone through that piece. We've done a lot of research. The Parks and Recreation Department and then myself did some traveling to different ice rinks. We've never built an ice rink before.
Right.
I don't think I'll ever build an ice rink again either, but we wanted to go and talk to folks that knew how to operate ice rinks, that knew kind of the best practices for ice rinks, and then what are our options for design. There's been a lot of work. I'll swing back to that design piece, but 6th Street, if people are listening to this podcast and they haven't driven down 6th Street, they really need to. The construction of that, there'll be a little bit of cleanup work in the spring, but about 98% of it is done, and it's just beautified that whole area. 6th
It
Street
really has.
overhead lines, and it was a weird interaction between sidewalk and parking. So it's really been a process to get to that. There's snow melt down there now. It's a beautiful piece of roadway, and we're excited for that ice rink to go in.
Because there's a couple different pedestrian crossings now that are flashing, right? And as you mentioned, all the lines now are buried.
Everything's underground. It's all
Nice.
beautified. There'd be some, like I said, some additional landscaping, some trees, urns, benches, all that kind of stuff will go in the spring down there. So that will make it even pop a little bit better for our tulip time visitors when that happens. But yeah, it's been a huge investment. We've really slowed the traffic on that street down.
Okay.
People had a tendency to just kind of hit the corner and go, and those crosswalks and the different amenities we've added have really slowed that that down so that when people are coming from our downtown to Window on the Waterfront or vice versa, they can do it safely.
Sure.
And there's stop crossings, and especially we've got the nature-based playground that we
Right.
partnered with the ODC to build in that area last year. Now it's a little bit safer, or a lot safer probably, for the little kiddos to cross the street to
Right.
go play and
So
back
important.
into down. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so important, and that Window on the Waterfront, I think a lot of the locals kind of stay out of that area when it is tulip time, but it is beautiful. It's even more beautiful now, and it's going to be really beautiful when we actually go and build the ice rink in there, which I'm not exactly sure when the podcast is going out, but I just got notification from our construction manager that the bids have gone out today.
Okay.
So we are beginning to get real.
Okay.
And we will be building that, working in there likely just after tulip time. If all the stars align, we'd like to get in there and do some work before tulip time. But we'll
Okay.
have to see how that all shakes out. And then the rink itself is really it's a circle of ice, so we call it a pond of ice that's actually connected to a ribbon. So people can skate the ribbon, they can do laps around the ribbon, they can do laps around the pond. They never really interact with each other if they're on the different surfaces, and it just creates a little bit more interesting skating environment. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
But you'll be able to get from the pond to the ribbon, right, without
Yep,
exiting the ice.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. They're both right together,
Okay.
connected, and like I said, it's the best of both worlds.
Fun.
We saw ice ribbons, we saw rinks like are at Rosa Parks, and it really was the idea of let's bring them both together and provide both types of ice out
Sure.
there.
Because you mentioned the staff, you talked about operations and did a lot of research in operations, but you also researched as a visitor, as a skater, so they could actually get on ice and see what's it like to be a visitor at this type of a rink, right?
Yeah, we did,
Okay.
and that continues.
Okay.
We've got Garrett and Joe over at the Parks and Rec have done a couple more site visits and done that
Nice.
again. So they're really getting the feel of what this ice is going to be like. And there's a lot of excitement in the community.
Yes.
There's a ton of excitement in the community. We get a lot of questions on, well, what is it going to be in the summertime, and what's it going to be? Well, there are a lot of opportunities there, and we've talked about we will have ice skate rental because
Okay.
nobody anymore has ice skates. And there'll be a concessions office that will have concessions and skate rental, but really it opens up some opportunities too. If like the snow we had the last couple of weeks, could cross country skiing be integrated in there as well? Could snowshoeing be integrated? In the summertime, our Parks and Recreation department actually puts on different like plays and uses a lot of different spaces around town, but one of the things that they don't have is like a plaza space. So if you want to do a Pilates class or have an outdoor play, they really don't have a spot to do
Right.
that. Well, in the summertime, this will be able to
Nice.
have that kind of stuff. It's a couple buildings. There's a Zamboni building, so obviously that's the other big question that
Zamboni.
we get. Can I drive the Zamboni? Well, we'll probably have to have an auction of that at some point.
Right,
Who
that-
wants to drive the Zamboni?
That could be fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah, so there's a Zamboni building. There's a covered area that connects to the skate rental and ticket rental, and that ticket rental space could be used at tulip time for the
Sure.
tours. So we think there's a lot of different opportunities to integrate the ice rink facility in other times of the year. There'll be bathrooms that will be there. One of the
Okay.
problems with a nature-based playground is currently the only available public restroom closest to that is at the hotel.
Oh, sure.
So the ice
A
rink,
little ways away
it is.
for a 2-year-old.
For a desperate parent of a
Yes.
2-year-old, we've all been there.
Right.
Especially if they've got a snowsuit on or
Right.
something like that, it really gets desperate. There's only porta potties right there. So we'll have restrooms integrated that will be open year round so that anybody
Nice.
that's out of the window on the waterfront has the ability to use the bathroom and be comfortable and be right there with their kids.
And in talking about the ice rink, certainly want to acknowledge the generous donations from the vision of Frank Cry and the Jury's family that really initiated this particular project.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned this ice rink has been talked about for a long time in Holland. I think we've traced it back to Lyda Rogers 90 years ago talking about an ice rink during when Tulip Time was created, right? So it's been talked about for a long time. But yeah, Frank is an amazing person. I've known Frank for almost my entire 25 years here in Holland, and he just came in one day and he'd been giving donations, fairly large donations, thousands and thousands of dollars every year for a number of years to support the project. And he came in and met with us and said, "I'm going to give you $1 million." And Keith and my jaw about hit the floor. It's just an amazing story.
It is.
An amazing man who, every time I talk to him, he tells me how wonderful everything is and how wonderful Holland is and how wonderful the things we're doing are. So to get this rink going for him,
Sure.
the Jury's family was really saw what he was doing and felt like they could be a part of it. And they came in with another $1 million donation, just massive amounts of money to do this. And then all the community came in too. We've got the donation list is so long. We'll have obviously a board out there at the ice rink when we build it to recognize those people. But we live in a pretty amazing community where people just
very generous, very generous.
Here's some money, go make this be. And it's really cool at this point in the project where we can see that we're going to make it happen, and it's coming. And there's going to be shovels in the ground in just a couple of months, and that's really super exciting.
Take off from there. Quickly, you did mention a pond and a ribbon and rentals, but what are some of the other amenities that this will have? It's going to be refrigerated, which is key.
It is key. We've had unrefrigerated rinks over the years in different parks, and like today as we record this podcast, it's 40 degrees outside, and I think I heard 50 next week. So those unrefrigerated rinks have had poor success. It's tough to keep them going. So this one had to be refrigerated. We're hoping to get 4 months plus or minus of skating in.
Sure.
And it'll be refrigerated. The other piece that I think people get super excited about is the fireplaces that will be integrated with the amenities at the station, at the rink, and then the curling rink.
Oh, that's right, the curling rink.
So the curling rink has got a lot of people excited. That was one of the things that Frank said we have to have.
Sure.
We have to have a curling rink. And I said to Frank, Frank, do you realize how big a regulation curling rink is?
'Cause they're quite long.
I think they're about 180 feet. Ours is more like 60.
Okay.
So ours is more of a fun curling rink.
Sure.
We'll probably have large stones and mini stones for playing, but it's not a regulation rink, but it is curling, and it's going to be fun.
Great exposure for people opportunity to be exposed to something that they may not otherwise have the opportunity to do.
And recreation may even have leagues, and who knows where that will go, but I think people will really have a lot of fun with it.
Nice, that'll be fun. And real quickly, the plaza that's there, that will be snow melted?
That will be snow melted. We have kind of a back, I mentioned a performing area that will be just concrete, but the whole plaza walking in will actually be integrated with snow melt.
Very nice. So, then nighttime, will there be lights at night?
So there's lights, there's audio.
Okay.
We actually have color changing lights that will be integrated in the project. So I think there's some pretty cool opportunities to have some fun.
That should be a lot of fun. Definitely. Yep. And quickly moving on, a different project completely that's going to happen right in the middle of downtown, so to speak, is the Holland Museum. Hasn't started yet, but
so the Holland Museum is a over 100-year-old building.
Okay.
So the fire stations are 50 years old. The Holland Museum is over 100 years old, so it's a whole different type of discussion when we talk about that building. So that building, people may or may not have noticed a lot of activity around City Hall this past summer. That was a full exterior renovation to City Hall, tuck pointing, doing masonry repairs throughout the building. It's one of those things that is very important that we do to our historic buildings, but a lot of times people don't see a lot of change.
Sure.
There'll be a lot of work done this summer to the museum that will do a very similar amount of work and do some repairs. So what this work will be is it won't be flashy, it won't be exciting, but it will keep the bones of the Holland Museum building solid and in good working order. Maintain it, clean the exterior, do any repairs that need to be done. and fix some things that we discovered last year that were going on kind of behind the parapet wall, which is the top row stones on the museum.
Okay.
And I think there'll be enough work with this particular project that people will notice a difference in the museum. It'll have a little bit more of a sparkle
Okay.
to it, a little bit of a facelift.
But they'll see, and we expect this will start
Again, probably right after tulip time.
Sure. But
Yep.
then they'll see scaffolding will go up and.
They'll
Okay.
see scaffolding. They'll probably see some cranes
Okay.
that will be around the building. We may have some temporary road or lane closures.
Okay.
People are
Sure.
really going to notice
Okay.
this. There's
Okay.
a lot going on. We plan to keep the museum up and
Oh,
open
nice.
during
Nice.
the renovation.
Okay.
So that's exciting. We
Yes.
may have to use maybe a different door to get in,
Sure.
or depending on what work is going on that day. But we'll definitely try to minimize disruption to the building.
Okay.
It's an interesting relationship that we have there, in that the city of Holland owns the museum. It used
Okay.
to. Some people may not realize that it used to be
No.
the post office way, way, way
Right.
back when.
Yes.
But it is operated by the Holland Historic Trust.
Okay.
So we don't operate the museum. We don't do any of the programming with the museum. That's a separate entity, but we do own the building
We own it and
Yep.
maintain it.
and maintain it. Yep.
And that's been a priority of councils to maintain the buildings that the city has.
Yeah, that was
Keep those in
something.
good working order.
Good working order, and we went through '08 just like everybody else did, and some things kind of had to be deferred. But really, we're making sure that we have enough money to maintain our facilities, keep them in great working order, and deal with anything that pops up.
Sure.
So we're doing that through budgeting and through a little bit of a change internally with our facilities team.
Okay.
We have more of a facilities team instead of just whoever is occupying the building is taking care of it.
Okay.
That group works a lot with myself and others just to make sure things are looking good.
Sure.
They're running right.
That's important.
It's super
Very
important.
important
Because
piece.
if you get far enough behind, it gets
Right.
really, really hard to catch up.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we call it fix it first.
Sure.
Funding is there so we can deal with those buildings, keep them in good working order, and continue to invest in all of our facilities. The Holland Museum renovation is a huge part of that. And, we're looking at probably 7 figures when we're all
Okay.
said and done for this renovation.
Yeah, it's a big old building.
It's a big old building, and it's a beautiful building
It
inside.
is. And want to ensure that it continues to stay that way for generations to come.
We do, and I always tell folks when we have these things come up, we want to make sure that the next person doesn't have to touch them for 25 to
Right.
50 years.
Yes.
And we're going to do that with the museum project.
Nice. One more project, a little bit more into the future, but just touch on it briefly, is the rec center that has been talked about a bit, and that is slated to be on the docket when?
So that is slated for construction in fiscal year 2027.
Okay.
So we're heading into fiscal year 2025 that will start July 1st. So
Okay.
pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close, not too far down the line, really.
No, not too far down the line at all. And like we did with the ice rink, we're starting our pre-work actually tomorrow. We're going to do some site visits to
Okay.
different recreation centers.
Okay.
The good news is we don't have to go all the way into Indiana or Chicago to find ice skating rinks, like the one that we want to do. We'll be a little bit closer here. But yeah, we're starting that process
Okay.
of what do we want in our recreation center? Going out, talking to people. I think we've got 9 of us going. It's pretty much the entire recreation staff to learn what works. What did you put in your recreation center that people use the most? What did you put in the recreation center that people don't use because we don't want to spend money on something people aren't going to
Right.
use? And then just brainstorming. What
Right.
what does this look like? Well, this one looks this way. Well, we don't necessarily need that, but this is pretty neat. This has got a walking track, or this has got 4 gyms or 6 gyms that they convert to pickleball on Tuesdays and open volleyball on Wednesdays, and just seeing what the opportunities are that are out there. I will say that our recreation staff is really excited to have their own facility.
I'm sure they
know,
can home base out of.
They can home base out of. They used to be on Civic Center, which still is part of the recreation plan. And we actually think that there's an opportunity with the Civic Center to have like a basketball tournament or a
Okay.
volleyball tournament and hold the championship game at the Civic Center.
Right.
A lot of people like that, and they like to
Sure.
be downtown.
Nice. Yeah, so giving yourselves quite a bit of time to do the homework, to think through everything, do your due diligence, and
Yeah, that's the
You're
process we start now.
nice.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is exciting. There's a lot going on in Holland.
There's a lot going on. We've got quite a few other little projects that are happening as well. But one thing I should mention that about the recreation center before we move off of that one is that it would be located at 16th and Fairbanks,
Okay.
immediately adjacent to Bowes Pool, and we'll have to figure out how we deal with Bowes Pool and create the recreation center. But
Sure.
central in Holland,
Yes.
Bowes Pool location is great because all of the adults, kids, whoever from the central neighborhoods can get to it
Easily. Yes.
easily walking. So we feel that that's important that our citizens, our people are able to get to that location relatively easily.
Absolutely. A lot going on. And that's only part of your responsibilities.
Correct. That's part of them. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot of exciting things. You know, we're getting to do projects here that a lot of people don't get to do in their entire careers doing what we do. And we're going to be doing a number of them in the next
Yes.
couple of years. So
Yeah.
it's an exciting time. I think the council supports the stuff that we've talked about today and are talking about doing in the future. So it's really, really bringing some great stuff to Holland that I think is going to make us an even more desirable place to be than we already are.
Right. To work, live, and play.
That's right. That's right.
Anything else you want to tell our listeners?
No, I don't think so. It's it's a great time to be here, and there's some exciting stuff on the horizon.
And enjoy it all.
Enjoy all of it.
Yep. Well, thank you, Matt. And until next time, this has been My Holland Update.